The answer is a combination of ancient history and religious tradition. According to the Date and Time organization based out of Norway, ancient Babylonians named the first day after the sun. That carried through multiple other civilizations, including the Greeks and the Romans. The Hebrew calendar considers Saturday the seventh day, which puts Sunday as the first. Early Christians considered Sunday a day to worship and rest. As Christianity spread, so did their calendar, and Sunday continued to be the first day of the week. That was the English tradition. It was brought to the United States, where it has carried on since then. There have been efforts to change that. Some countries have made the switch. In 1988, the International Organization for Standardization pushed to start the week on Monday, and a lot of countries made that switch, including a lot of Europe and some African countries. But worldwide, more than 4 billion people, including in the U.S., India, Japan, and Israel, all still have Sunday as the first day of the week. There are a few countries, including Iran, Afghanistan, and Somalia, that start their weeks with Saturday. If you have a good question, just email us. Goodquestion@WKYT.com. I'll see you on WKYT Morning.